Hello, everyone, and welcome to another EngageRocket webinar. This is part of the EngageRocket Academy series, the best resources on the cutting edge of HR and people science in Asia. My name is Chia, and I'll be your host for today. We have a really exciting program lined up, starting with a curated report on the latest and the largest dataset on employee experience in Singapore 1 year into this pandemic, followed by a little ceremony to recognize the companies that have been putting their people first and working hard on their employee experience and engagement through this unprecedented change to our workplaces. All of this would not have been possible without our valued partners, the Institute for HR Professionals, the Singapore HR Institute, so IHRP and SHRI, as well as our knowledge partner, the ThriveHR Exchange community. And of course, our team at EngageRocket, who have been working around the clock to make this event happen. So as I go through the program today, just some hygiene rules. So if you have any questions at all during the presentations, please do put them in the Q&A box. We don't have a formal response to the Q&A in today's segment, but if our team is able to get to them over text, we will be able to do so. And of course, for those of you who would like to chat with your fellow attendees, please feel free to use the Zoom chat function. But first, before we dive into the results of the study, let's go into some background about what the program was. So we launched the National Employee Experience Transformation Program, or NEXT, together with the IHRP, SHRI, and ThriveHR Exchange in March. And this was done in order to capture the profound ways in which the employee experience was changing in Singapore through the pandemic. So we're all familiar with video calls now. Zoom and webinar formats are very familiar. We're also very familiar with hybrid working. And in fact, many of us have actually built new schedules for ourselves and our families around the time that we save from commuting to work. This project was really an attempt to capture these changes and track how it's impacting our workplace and our businesses. We were privileged to have more than 80 companies participate in this program, allowing us to analyze almost 400,000 responses, making this the largest consistent data set on the employee experience through the pandemic in Singapore. And through this process, something that also stood out a lot for us was that participating companies got a taste of the benefits of building structured employee listening programs and using these employee experience data to inform smarter people and business decisions. The employees of these companies were also empowered to share their feedback and creativity through a confidential channel, enjoying the psychological safety of a confidential technology platform while surfacing mission-critical insights to their leaders. Today, to walk us through the research and the key insights that emerged from this data, please allow me to introduce EngageRocket's very own Vice President of Product and People Science, Sonali Sharma. And Sonali, while you're coming online, I actually have a question for the audience. I'm going to launch this poll right now while you get set up. And the question for all of you is, what do you think are the main advantages of working remotely? So you can choose 3 of these. And please do take your time to answer this right now. We're going to be showing the results to this at the end of Sonali's presentation in just about 25 minutes. All right, so while your answers come in, over to you, Sonali.
Thank you, everyone, for being here today. I am very grateful to have the opportunity here to be able to present the insights of this very relevant report in front of this audience. My name is Sonali Sharma, and I'll be sharing survey findings from the latest and the largest data set on employee experience in Singapore 1 year into the pandemic. Just a little bit about me. I'm very passionate about people science and using advanced analytics, human-centered design, and organizational psychology to solving challenging problems in the area of employee experience. And I have to be completely honest, in my career, I haven't quite come across a people challenge as complex as the one that we as a collective, HR industry are facing in this year. And on behalf of EngageRocket, I'd just like to say that we're very grateful that we're able to play a small role in helping solving some of these challenges through analytics. I'm also grateful to the team and our partners that have worked very hard for us to be able to share this with you. Now, some of you may remember that we shared a mid-cycle report in April, and I'd love to briefly share some insights from earlier to provide more context for this report. As you can see, COVID, in the last cycle, we talked a lot about the impact of COVID on the workforce and the shift within 1 year from 2020 to 2021. Some of the key trends that we found were well-being, resilience, and manager support have declined in the last 1 year. And safety and skills were reported to be very high on the list of positive employee sentiment. Now, it's interesting to know that COVID had a negative impact on almost all key measures of engagement, ENPS, resilience, well-being, but companies did make a lot of effort to ensure the safety of employees, and it showed through in the employee sentiment. We also had a few questions on what is digitization. So in the last, at the end of the mid-cycle last year, we asked people if they had any questions, and there were quite a few questions that came up on what is digitization? How do we enforce it? How do we apply it within our organization? What about hybrid workers? We had focused a lot on remote workers, but there was a lot of curiosity about hybrid workers. And I'm very happy to share that we get into a lot more detail on that in our report. So I encourage everyone to take a read once you're able to get your hands on the copy after this. I also want to share that in our poll, to about 100 plus leaders, HR leaders at the end of our presentation in the mid-cycle sharing, we found that engagement was a top priority for people in the pandemic, closely followed by productivity. And so our report goes into a lot more detail on the drivers of engagement and productivity. Let's take a closer look at our findings from this report. Here's what we know. We know that COVID impacted us, but we didn't know that the impact of COVID would be a lasting one. A year into the pandemic, people are less engaged and more burnt out. And this impact has been both physical, mental, and not just in the workplace, but at our homes as well. Now, the interesting thing is, one would think that productivity would decline amidst the most challenging of circumstances, but we were surprised. Despite all odds and long-term stressors, the workplace has embraced and adapted to the new ways of work without any cost to productivity. We'll go into that in a bit more detail, but this adaptability that the workforce has shown is a consistent theme across industries, across age groups, and that I have to admit that was extremely surprising and heartening to see. But then the million-dollar question, what can organizations do to support employees, build resilience, and go digital? We'll go into a lot more detail in the rest of the report, but I did want to share a summary of what we'll be talking about today. And before we dive in to the findings, let's take a look at our participant profile. As you can see, we had close to 400,000 responses collected from 80 plus companies. And I have to mention that more than 50 companies had a participation rate of over 75%. And that's very exciting for us because it contributes to our confidence in our recommendations and the rigor in our insights. I also want to call out that more than half of our population, close to 56%, comprises millennials, that is between the ages of 20 to 39, followed by Gen X and boomers. Before I begin, I think it's very important to thank all the participants for sharing their valuable experiences, all of the employees that shared their data, and Also, all the HR leaders who decided to invest in listening to their employees. With that overview, we can move to the first section of the report. The long-term impact of COVID. There were some of us, including me, who thought that the impact of COVID would be temporary on our health, well-being, personal lives, and workplace. We've discovered since that the impact is actually much more long-term. In our report, it's been appropriately referred to as the crisis of a generation. In this section, I'll be talking about in what ways and which employees are most impacted, and what are some of the ways we can use to mitigate those risks. The first point I'd like to talk about is resilience. Right now, since Feb of 2020, Singapore has witnessed 6 waves of the coronavirus pandemic. Businesses and human lives have been disrupted. This is marked by an understandable, but nonetheless worrying drop in the percentage of people who are confident in the future of their organization. Now we can see from this chart that 17% fewer people have confidence in their organization's future versus last year, when that number was actually around 81%. Now, why is this important? Why is resilience so important? And why are we talking about it more than any other driver? This is of extremely high significance because we find that confidence in an organization's future is the #1 and the primary driver for engagement and commitment, which is also the intent to stay within a company for 12+ months. Outside of this worrying drop in resilience, we also see a trend that smaller organizations seem to display a marginally lower level of confidence. However, as you can see, whether it's a small organization or mid-sized or large, the percentage confidence remains below 70. This is a signal that COVID's financial impact on a business's bottom line can contribute to low engagement for both large as well as small organizations. There's also a risk on innovation, especially as just about 37% of caregivers feel safe about taking risks at work. The ability to take risks, unfortunately, it's a vicious cycle we find ourselves in, because the only way to break out of the kind of disruption that we have within our society and our businesses is through innovation. Unfortunately, another negative impact of COVID and the employee engagement and the employee experience is employees are less inclined to take risks or less confident about taking risks. We recommend a way to fix that is across every level, strategic listening and strategic communications are necessary to strengthen culture, boost morale, as well as promote innovation. In 2021, now if we look at engagement, as measured by the ENPS, which is the Employee Net Promoter Score, through this we can categorize the workforce into promoters, detractors, and those who are passive within the organization. The share of detractors has actually increased by 17%. And as you can see on the chart on the right, the figure varies significantly by industry. Finance has the largest share of detractors, but healthcare, public sector, education professionals, actually, if you notice, have the largest passive population. They've also experienced the largest drop in promoters, which means for these industries, which have had to support society in a very different way in the pandemic, a lot of their promoters have actually moved into the passive category, who are now, that can be best described as coping in the pandemic, but not thriving. The key recommendation here is to improve overall employee experience, which will drive employee engagement. But what are those drivers of employee experience that we need to influence? Companies will need to understand the unique drivers of engagement for their organization, resilience being the #1 that we already talked about, within their organization to help move the needle on employee experience. Let's look at one such employee experience variable, which has actually shot to the fore in the pandemic. That is well-being and burnout. Well-being has reduced by 9% from last year. We asked employees to rate their level of agreement to a question, I am able to avoid burnout at work. Emotionally, mentally, and physically, we all know and feel burnout. We know when we are burnt out. But there is even, in fact, a scientific definition. Feelings of energy depleting or feelings of exhaustion, increased mental distance from your job, or feelings of cynicism, negativity related to your job count as the scientific definition through literature reviews as burnout. I'm sure that sounds familiar. We've all been experiencing various degrees of these emotions over the last year. As several experts going into the pandemic had predicted, and as the data has validated, the number of employees at risk of burnout increased significantly between 2020 and 2021. The share of the neutral or coping population has increased to 43%, indicating a feeling of stagnation that's settling into the pandemic. This is a term called languishing, and I would highly encourage you to read more details about this in the report. It's a middle space between burnout and being able to thrive. The recommendation here is it is very important to understand and acknowledge the problem, which is often the first step to redressal. Companies need to revisit their mental well-being programs for the high-risk population, but also the coping or the languishing population, which might seem lower risk, but also is in fact experiencing negative effects of the pandemic. Now, within burnout, within the organizations that are experiencing burnout, there is a cohort within this population that is in fact experiencing burnout to a different degree. Just like we saw in resilience, caregivers make up the bottom percentile in terms of wellness. But there's the interesting fact here is, and I'm very grateful that we were able to uncover this insight from the data because it's not always intuitive. Just being a caregiver does not predispose you to being burnt out. Or in fact, just having high workload does not predispose you to having extreme levels of burnout. But turns out that when you put those two together, the level of burnout that an employee experiences can spike up. So only 14% of caregivers declare being burnt out, while 22% of those with high workload are burnt out. But like I said, when you put those two together, and when you look at caregivers of school-going children and young children with high workload, the percentage of employees that report burnout shoots up to 30%. I'm sure most of us can relate to this anecdotally, but being able to see this data and experience it and analyze it gives us the opportunity to think about ways we can address the needs of this population differently. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, and so I'd like to say that it's not all bad. There is actually a silver lining, and I'd like to talk about that in the next section. Employees have shown remarkable adaptability and managed to maintain steady levels of success in a work-from-home environment, and it has not been easy. This year, the shift back to physical office spaces needs to be considered carefully in terms of employee readiness. And what we're going to talk about is showing you the ways that we can do just that to support this cohort. I'm going to state what we all intuitively know, which is 74% of the workforce is remote or hybrid, and flexible work is here to stay. Of course, this varies by industries. Like in finance, we notice while only 17% of the workforce are purely remote, 70% are actually hybrid. That's why in 2021, employers need to revisit the definition of the new normal and begin to plan for the now normal and permanent change. But how does the working model impact employee experience and outcomes like engagement and productivity? Is there even an impact? Turns out that there is, and in unexpected ways. We were intrigued and very interested to note that remote workers are actually more productive than those working in the office or in a hybrid model. Several companies have opted for hybrid work, where employees spend a designated number of hours in office and the rest at home. But turns out that hybrid workers are actually the least productive of all at 72% self-reported productivity. We also know that they're least engaged. On the contrary, remote workers are most productive. And if you look at the chart on the right, you can see that the most productive in terms of self-reported productivity is for the age group above 60. While the least productive are the millennials or the employees within the 20 to 29. But even within that cohort, if we look, it's really the office workers and the hybrid workers. And you can sort of see the two at opposite ends of the spectrum with a very large delta. Now, this has consequences for the way we plan our job profiles, the way we plan our job content, the way we plan our workplaces, and even our return to work policy. But this wasn't enough, because now we want to understand the drivers of productivity. Knowing which cohort is productive isn't enough. I think the next question that all of us have is, so what can we do to make people more productive? What can we do to improve their reported, self-reported and actual productivity? Turns out that the question, which is, I have access to the resources I need to do my job effectively, is the #1 predictor of productivity. And so we wanted to look a little deeper into this question. And again, the insight is surprising that employees feel more equipped to do their jobs at home than in the office. In fact, 62% of office workers said that they have the resources they need to do their job, compared to a whopping 75% of remote workers. Likewise, on commitment, as you can see by the charts on the right, office workers expect the shortest tenure in their current organization, indicating that daily presence in a physical office space is not an indicator of loyalty. Commitment also has an interesting trend. There are differences in employees' intent to stay based on their level in the organization, which is something that we'd love to talk about. As we previously discussed, remote work continues to be correlated with productivity, but what was interesting to see is that this intent to stay and commitment is actually higher for managerial roles. Across middle management, senior ranks, and the C-suite, remote managers are between 2 to 4 percentage points more committed than the overall average. An important point to note here is that while managers themselves are largely satisfied, their team members have a less favorable outlook on manager performance. If you we looked at 2 questions on informal and social connections at work. And as you can see, there's a significant decline from 2020. This indicates an opportunity for managers to step in, listen to their employees, strengthen interpersonal bonds, and reestablish culture. On both the questions, there is someone at work I can count on for when I need help, and when working from home, I still feel sufficiently connected. Both of those can be solved through implementing innovative technology solutions, designing workspaces and collaboration tools through investments in technology that remove bottlenecks of collaboration and improve a feeling of belonging. So as we come to sort of the close of this section, it's very clear that while employees are thriving, they do need support. And what we're here to talk about is what more can we do for the cohorts that are struggling, for managers to enable their employees and their teams to thrive through best practices and through insights. Our recommendation is digital transformation and resilience will drive sustainable change. But let's unpack that in terms of who needs to drive this change, what tools can they have, and what will be the impact. As you can see, manager performance, as I talked about in the last time, and manager enablement is a huge lever in being able to improve employee experience. We know it's strongly correlated with employee engagement and well-being. Now, managers themselves are almost 2.5 times more engaged than non-managers. However, on the contrary, employees are feeling less supported by their managers. So what's going on here? Managers seem to be doing well compared to non-managers in the pandemic. They have better coping mechanisms. They have better levels of engagement, higher levels of intent to stay, higher levels of resilience. But employees don't feel the same way. Individual contributors don't feel the same way. The two questions on the right actually indicate what's going on here. If you notice, there's a decline of 5 to 6% on two counts. One, does your manager give you direct and regular feedback? And two, do you feel supported by your manager? Does your manager provide you with the support you need to complete your work? We know that manager support, manager enablement is core to the success of hybrid work. And employees and organizations need to do more to equip managers throughout the organization to make that transition more effective. However, I'd just like to say that it's not easy for managers, right? When we looked at the data, we were surprised. We wanted to know what's going on. Is it, how are managers thriving? Do they have better work conditions? Do they have lower workloads? Do they have better, personal lives? Do they have better professional life? What's going on here? And so I'd just like to say that it is not easy for managers. We know from our data that managers have more caregiving responsibilities because of, in some cases, there is correlation with age. Also, we noticed managers do have higher workload. So we wanted to look into specific recommendations and insights to help create impact for this cohort. And turns out that there are some very specific things that employees can do to be able to ask for manager support and for managers to be able to support their employees. Now, managers can support employees in various ways. You can provide feedback, you can check in on your employee or your team member's well-being, you can provide with support for work-related support. But the data is very clear on this, which is the number one initiative that a manager can take, which will drive engagement and employee experience and a sense of well-being, is being able to discuss, the employee being able to discuss work-related problems with the manager. Now, we know that managers actually discuss work-related problems with their own managers. 71% of managers discuss their problems with their own managers. Unfortunately, ICs aren't doing that. Individual contributors, only 60% of them discuss work-related problem with their managers. So this is a skill that managers have, which is just not being passed on to the employees. So in terms of a recommendation, what we'd say is that it is critical to employee experience that organizations and managers and employees invest in the ability to conduct candid conversations and be able to have work-related problem conversations with their managers, as that is most likely to have the highest impact on work experience. So what we've learned here is it's very important to measure the right metrics and important to measure the right drivers. And this is the beauty of analytics, and this is the power of data. Because in the world of options, where do you shine the light? So this is a small grid that we have, which talks about the drivers of intent to stay. Now, intent to stay is highly correlated with engagement. In fact, a single increase in intent to stay actually increases the eNPS score by 50%. So it's also a leading indicator of attrition. So we wanted to look at what are the drivers of intent to stay. The box on the top right is the highest impact. Not only is resilience the number one predictor, as you can see, confidence in an organization's future, which is far to the right, which means it has the highest impact on intent to stay and subsequently engagement, but it's middle on the favorability scale. Resilience, as I pointed out, has also seen the most drastic decline since 2020. So in terms of for organizations that have high resilience, this is absolutely the driver to reward, to to encourage and to encourage and reward behaviors that promote it. And for organizations that are low on this, this is absolutely the #1 driver that will have the maximum impact on your engagement. On the top left quadrant, we see promote. I already talked about manager-related work, discussing work problems with your manager, which is in the top left quadrant. Those are behaviors we need to promote. Those are behaviors through training, through investments. We need to promote those behaviors to be able to influence engagement. And on the bottom left quadrant is burnout, which means the impact is medium, but it's also very, very low on the favorability scale, which means any change here will have most likely, just because of the degree of impact, will have a huge, huge impact in moving the needle on engagement. So this is the impact assessment grid, which is a very useful way for us to identify and prioritize the drivers that we need to focus on. Okay, let's just quickly look at what we can do to address workplace challenges for this cohort, right? Organizations need a more mindful productivity mix. We've seen that employees have found it extremely difficult to maintain work-life balance. In fact, heavy workloads lead to 3 times more burnout. A key focus for employers will be to try to reduce workloads. But how do you do that when the business is strained, where business outcomes are a priority, when innovation is important and productivity is of utmost value? How then do you decrease workload? And the focus will be on efficiency and helping employees get the job done faster with minimal stress. As you can see, digital and technology skills are the #1 skill that employees believe are essential and critical to the future of work. Interestingly, as you can see on the chart on the right, millennials feel they are least equipped with the skills they need to do well in my job. It's very important that we build skills all around. Leaders need to build skills on how to motivate hybrid teams. Managers need to build the skills in order to have more frequent feedback and more candid conversations. Employers need to equip managers with new tools to listen. But this is particularly true for the millennial cohort, which is most high at risk. This is also validated through a chart where we're depicting the most commonly occurring topics with open-ended comments from employees. As you can see, communication, resources, flexibility, well-being, and benefits all appear with an overall negative sentiment, indicating opportunity for redressal in these areas. The data has overwhelmingly pronounced digitization as the key to unlocking success in the new normal, as it impacts all these areas above. Any organization that is able to address the needs of the modern workplace with investment and technology will pave the way for a digital future. I'd like to leave this chart on for a few seconds and actually ask a question on what are your top 2 struggles with digital transformation? What are your top struggles with digital transformation? So if we could have that poll up. Thank you. So I'll leave it on for a few seconds while I conclude. I think in conclusion, we can say that employees must revisit their definition of the new normal. And it's important to acknowledge that what we thought was temporary is now a reality, and we need to begin to plan for this permanent change. We actually recommend 3 ways to support this. The first is investment in digital resources. Now, investment in workplace resources, including employee skills, is essential to help the workforce reach their full potential. This also involves taking stock of each demographic's unique productivity drivers and being able to personalize and customize solutions, again, which can be enabled through digitization. By using technology appropriately, managers can encourage more discussions and strengthen social connections to reduce the sense of isolation among teams and thereby improving a sense of well-being as well as a sense of belonging. The second recommendation is on being able to monitor as well as improve resilience. Companies will need to carefully determine the pace at which they want to transition back to a physical office, paying attention to safety as well as flexibility. Given how well employees have adapted, their preferences should play a role in this decision to ensure continued resilience and well-being. On resilience, I'd just like to call out the need to focus on millennials. We've discovered that millennials serve as a bridge between the traditional workplace practices and the future of work. They're also the largest cohort. They're also stuck between two generations. They expect immediacy, they need personalization and an attention to the experience. The data strongly tells us that investing in improving resilience for this cohort will yield high returns for an organization that is looking to improve business outcomes through people outcomes. The third and the last one, but not the least, is investment in communication and L&D. By investing in manager training, companies can leverage the enormous potential existing within the organization to push the needle on employee happiness. Managers should be trained to identify early signs of burnout, to take action immediately in real time in as personalized a way as possible using technology. Remote work has made traditional models of communication more problematic. We also know that communication is the #1 tool in a leader and a manager's toolbox to address resilience. Without water cooler chats or impromptu stand-ups, it is extremely necessary to revisit two-way feedback mechanisms between managers and team members. With that, I would just like to say that personally, I am extremely confident about the resilience, the well-being, the engagement, as well as the productivity we can help our employees and our organizations with, and we will continue to thrive, paying attention to the need of the hour. With that, I'm going to pass it to Chitong, and we'll also, I think, share insights from what the poll that we just took.
Thank you very much, Sonali, for sharing all of that. It certainly resonates a lot with me, and I'm sure with many of you too, feeling that impact of the pandemic on your personal well-being and stress levels, whether you're a manager or individual contributor, and really wrapping our heads around this, the now normal. We were just slapped with a reminder of that with the heightened alert phase in Singapore recently, where suddenly we were all in the mood and in the mode of going back to the office. And then suddenly it's back to working from home. And I mean, the good news is that I think a lot of us have come to terms with that very quickly, and we've just moved on with life as normal, so which is great. So I'm going to share the results of the poll right now, so we can have a look at that, and we can see that, okay, for the top 3 struggles with digital transformation, it looks very much like lacking the expertise to lead digital transformation is one of the critical ones. Managing and implementing changes in the organization, another one. And then employee pushback or slow take-up rate is the third. So thank you all for responding to that one. There's another. Why is this? Oh, I see. Let me share the first one about what were the main advantages of working remotely. So no commuting time, by far and away, the top choice. More flexibility in working hours, as well as having it to be easier for us to balance work and personal responsibilities. So yeah, so Sonali, what do you make of these results?
No commuting time is no surprise. That's actually very consistent with other places where I've seen this data and insight. More flexibility in working hours that's interesting. I think for the population that's here, I think that we might be biased because there's, I think there are inherent demographic biases for that one. But no commuting time, absolutely no question. That has been the #1 self-reported benefit of remote work.
I'm very curious about this 25% of people where working remotely gives them a quiet space to work. I don't know, I've got 3 kids at home, so definitely not quiet for me.
This is where we need to do a demographic cut of the data.
So the 1 in 4 of you who responded to that, lucky you, lucky you. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing right now, and we're going to dive into the next section of today's webinar. So thank you very much, Sonali. And all of you on this webinar, thank you for all the questions that came through. You will be receiving a complimentary copy of the full report detailing all of the analysis that Sonali has shared. All of you statistical nuts, like there's a lot of technical detail in there as well for you to dive into the data. And on top of that, there are also additional comments from HR leaders and experts in the field. And as always, if you'd like to find out how you can get specific insights about your company, scan this QR code on screen right now, and you'll hear back from EngageRocket's workplace strategists in no time. They're qualified to understand your needs in this space, whether you're just starting out, or if you already have some systems in place that you want to take to the next level. And they're also qualified to be able to suggest actionable steps that you can take based on your current stage of evolution in people analytics and the employee experience. If there is an interest in going deeper, and it makes sense over the course of that discussion, our workplace strategists will also be able to help you create a custom employee experience quick start playbook with you and your team that can chart out actionable steps that you can take, as well as tools that you can use to enhance your employee experience. So this is, of course, entirely free with no obligation. So we're here to help. Moving in to the next segment, which is, I'm sure many of you are very nervous about this and very excited about it. As we look back over the last 12 months, one of the things we noticed was that the HR teams that all of us are from, we've been working overtime to ensure that our people are navigating the changes well, adapting to new ways of working and communicating. But much of this effort, I would say, has been going under the radar, as leaders have been focused on steering businesses through the volatile markets, and every individual has had their own situations to deal with. So today, we thought we'd take the opportunity to celebrate some of these efforts from our HR teams and leaders who have put their people first, and to recognize them through the first ever EngageRocket Workplace Transformation Awards. Today, you will hear from some of the companies that have leaned in to the pandemic and its challenges well, and using this as an opportunity to build lasting change to enable their people and organizations to thrive well after this crisis is over. There are 6 categories of awards that are going to be given out today, and in no particular order. They are the Best Well-Being Strategy, Best Leadership Development, Best Onboarding Experience for many of us who have had to onboard new staff remotely for the first time in our company's history, Best HR Tech Innovation, Best Analytics and Employee Listening, as well as the coveted Best People-Centric Culture. Each of these categories were hotly contested, and our team and I were really blown away by the quality and the quantity of entries. Several of these categories were won by really just a tiny margin, and it was really that close. We are extremely privileged through this whole process to have a distinguished panel of judges to provide an expert and unbiased assessment of all the entries that we received. Their wealth of experience and sharp eye for detail that they've applied in the evaluation of submissions has really elevated the conversation for myself and our team, and has inspired us to strive for even greater heights in the future. And on behalf of the EngageRocket team, I would like to personally thank each and every one of them that you can see on the screen for lending their time and their discerning eye to this process. Today, we are honored to have some of them to join us to grace this awards ceremony as well. First up, it's my great privilege to invite Professor Jaclyn Lee from the Singapore University of Technology and Design, SUTD, to give her thoughts on well-being in the workplace, as well as to announce the winner for that category. Professor Jaclyn, please.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for inviting me, Chitong and EngageRocket team. So the first award in our slew of accolades today is for excellence in well-being strategy. This award is very significant in today's world as the pandemic has brought on a key issue of employee well-being, which is now integral in our work design. So the ability to integrate employee well-being successfully into our business strategy to derive performance and improve worker productivity becomes pivotal in today's pandemic world. So today, I'm really pleased to share that one such company has successfully led this example by having a robust and comprehensive well-being strategy that is exemplified in their work culture. I would like to congratulate Prudential for being selected for this prestigious award. Prudential has adopted a very strategic and proactive approach to promote and improve resilience, mental health, well-being, as well as psychological safety in the workplace. I'd like to call upon Prudential to share more on their well-being strategy. Prudential, please. Thank you.
Hi, Jaclyn. Thank you for awarding us this award, and hello to everyone on the call. What I would like to share, my name is Vivien, and I head up amongst many responsibilities, the rewards function, who also looks after well-being and wellness. So for us, Prudential, wellness is actually focused around 4 pillars. So we think about it from a physical, mental, emotional, as well as financial wellness perspective. And besides that, we also look at it through the lens of data. I think that's very important in this day and age, especially when we do not see our colleagues on a day-to-day basis, to be able to derive insights from data and therefore make our wellness strategy more relevant. We always consider 3 things: what's really relevant based on the voice of our employees, what's employing flexibility, so giving employees the power of choice, and lastly, understanding that there is everyone is a unique individual, and we have to have a variety for our employees to choose from. So just some examples of what we have done from a mental well-being perspective, from providing employees with psychiatrist and psychologist consultation support, to mental well-being apps that allow them to sort of proactively manage their well-being, to introducing simple things like Family Fridays, where employees can go off from work at an earlier time to spend time with family, and lastly also sort of stringing our activities together through gamification. So and through gamification, we sort of really encourage engagement throughout the organization to drive our wellness programs and as well as awareness. Lastly, what I want to share is around experimenting, and I think with a lot of organizations, it's important to to sort of start bite-size. So we have started on a trial on 4-day work week with about 300 of our employees, and then we sort of we've been experimenting that for the last 6 months, and we have seen an improvement in productivity as well as well-being for this group. So it's something we're starting. We're not sure whether we'll hit there permanently as an organization, but definitely one way of sort of really testing out what works and what doesn't. Yeah, thanks. So that's my sharing. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you very much, Vivien from the Prudential team, and also thank you very much, Professor Jaclyn, for sharing this award with us. Very, very interested to hear the results of the 4-day workweek experiment at Prudential. Next, may I invite Kon Tai, Managing Director for Employee Experience Design and Implementation at FedEx, to share her thoughts on the importance of developing great leaders, especially in the post-pandemic world, and to announce the winner for the Best Leadership Development category. Kon Tai, please.
Thank you, Chitong. Good afternoon. Well, leadership is an important source of competitive advantage for many organizations, if not all, because leadership has been found to be a very important predictor of organization performance. If I may quote a publication from the Center of Creative Leadership, it says that leadership development represents a very important space for an organization to seize leadership or advantage, competitive advantage in their industry, particularly to improve the ability to improve financial performance, able to attract talent and retain talent, as well as to drive a strategy execution. And so it is definitely a very key in this time of the current situation that we are facing. So we are very happy that as a collective decisions by the panel to recognize an organization for the support that they have given to the employees, and also attention provided to develop a structured methodology and approach to identify leadership area and the gap, to buy, to build, how to assess, and how do they measure success, and how they implement it in the organization. So I'm very happy to announce that the winner in this category is StarHub as the best leadership development. Let us invite StarHub to share more about their success. StarHub, please.
Thank you, Kwantai. Good afternoon, everyone. First and foremost, I want to say a big thank you to EngageRocket for giving us this opportunity. And of course, distinguished panel of judges for also acknowledging the work that we have done in StarHub. It's very humbling to be a winner in your inaugural award. So thank you for that. You know, last year was a really, really tough year, right? And when the going gets tough, the tough doubles down on development. That's one thing we have learned as an organization. So last year, StarHub had our inaugural LEAP program. We put through 33 of our high potentials who are potential successes through this development program, right? And what was very important, I want to take this opportunity to really share our design principles, right? The program, there are many ways to skin a cat to put a program together, but we had some key design principles that I would really like to share with you. The first design principle was we genuinely wanted to develop and grow each individual. Not just because we want them to be future successes, but because we cared about their growth and their development. So each person who went through the development journey with us knew that we were vested in their success. And it's not just StarHub who needs great leaders, the world can do with many more good leaders. So we wanted to ensure that that was core to our design principle. The second design principle was development is a journey. It is not a program. So our entire journey was 8 months, not 4 days, not 4 weeks, but 8 months, right? And the third key design principle was we have to learn in the flow of work. It has to be practical, it has to be real, it has to give real-time learnings and applicability. So learn in the flow of work. And how we did that, right, was we went through there are various aspects of this 8-month journey. One part was learning through active simulation. We had 4 modules focused on people leadership, focused on wellness, focused on innovation, focused on business leadership. After every module, you get to go try and practice it in the flow of work. And then reinforce through reflection, one-on-one coaching, and a commitment, plus one-on-one sponsorship by the C-suite. So each talent had a development sponsor who sat on the C-level, right? So we really wanted to ensure that the learning was in the flow of work and build a community of support and senior leadership sponsorship. So through this entire approach, we had it wrapped around an 8-month program, and it was a phenomenal experience. This year, we are very excited. We'll be going to LEAP 2.0 and taking that deeper into the organization. So it's been a great learning experience, very enriching for the people who went through it, and happy to share more with any of you if you're interested. Again, thank you, panel of judges. Thank you, EngageRocket. Back to you.
Congratulations, Kat, for leading the startup team. If every company were to take leadership development so seriously, we'll have a much larger stable of solid leaders in this world. So, and thank you also for introducing this award, Kwantai. Next, it's my great privilege to invite Alvin, Executive Director of SHRI, to share his thoughts on the onboarding experience for new hires, an area that has been especially challenging during remote and hybrid work, and also to announce the winner for the Best Onboarding Experience category. Alvin, please.
Thanks, Chidu. Thanks for inviting us. As the saying goes, right, first impression really counts, and it's no wonder that when onboarding is really done effectively and in as well efficiently, employees stand to stay longer with our organizations. And it's also proven that a positive overall employee experience leads to enhanced customer experience, and that really starts with the first onboarding that for all new hires as well. 7 April 2020 is a very significant day for all of us here in Singapore as we went into the circuit breaker, and organizations itself has faced a mammoth task in terms of onboarding new employees at that point of time. And through the last 1.5 years, we have really seen a lot of creative and as well innovative methods to create that everlasting first impression to assist all of our new hires to really assimilate effectively into the organizations. From this awards itself, it was also heartwarming to really see that all the organizations that participated in the best onboarding category provided their new employees with the necessary training, knowledge, and as well resources to succeed in their new positions to foster better employee engagement and through job satisfaction as well. So on that note itself, I would really like to congratulate and recognize Singapore Land Authority, SLA, for their efforts in creating the best onboarding experience for their employees. With that, thank you very much. Over to you, Chito.
Thanks very much, Alvin. And unfortunately, the SLA couldn't attend at the last minute, so we'll have to hear their story remotely. But our next judge is very conversant with the interplay of human behavior and technology in the workplace. And it's therefore very fitting and my great honor that we invite Evangeline Chua, Chief People Officer at GovTech, to announce the winner for the Best HR Tech Innovation category. Evan, please.
Thanks, Chidong. Can you see me?
Yes, we're seeing you perfectly.
Great. All right. So I just wanted to quote something that Sonali mentioned earlier, right? Just to let her know that I've been paying attention. Sonali actually said that digital transformation enables the, sustainability. And sustainability, as I see it, can be translated to the following, right? One is certainly when you digitalize, you give the organization a greater competitive advantage, operational efficiency, enhanced productivity, and last but not least, which is very, very important, is enhancing the customer experience. And customer, in this context, I would say, our employees' experience. Today, we are giving recognition and endorsement to organizations that have actually exemplified the spirit of innovation in their use of technology. The judges, I must say, had a tough time determining the winner, as there has been good effort, invested by all contestants. Just to keep the contestants in suspense for 1 minute without disclosing the name of the winner, I just want to describe the name, right? The organization. The workforce is no more than 50 members, which is a relatively small organization, which tells me that the size of the workforce is not a determinant nor a deterrent, whether an organization should assign resources to adopt and invest in technology solutions. And hence, this organization has actually used technology to enable employee self-service, manager self-service, enhance employees' experience, outsourcing of payroll and so forth. And without much ado, I shall announce the winner is IHRP Awards. Congratulations.
Congratulations indeed. Thank you very much, Evan. May I invite Nurul Huda from the Asia PR Works team to say a few words?
Okay, hi everyone. Thank you so much to Evangeline for your kind introduction, and to the distinguished judges as well as EngageRocket who have awarded us with this award. First of all, I'll introduce myself. I'm Nurul from IHRP Works. So as Evangeline has shared earlier, that we are a PR agency with about 50 employees, and we are actually celebrating our 25th anniversary this year. So this award is extra special for us, and it cannot have come at a time. So thank you for this. Firstly, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our HR and admin team, Rebecca and Neha, have joined us today as well for their hard work and dedication in leading this and making this happen. So thank you very much. I think as an agency, we have always recognized the need to digitalize and to improve our processes, but the pandemic really expedited the whole process overnight, as we were all working remotely last year, and even today we continue to work from home as the default mode. So we needed to ensure that there's still a sense of belonging and social cohesion amongst our colleagues, and we are able to leverage technology to meet higher standards of excellence for us. So we made the best out of the situation, and we implemented key HR components using two technology solutions, which have really helped us. Number one would be the Infotech software, which is a HR-based system that automates core HR processes, and EngageRocket, of course, I think you all are already aware that it's an online appraisal system. So maybe I'll just do a quick sharing about Infotech software, how it has helped us. So it has really improved efficiency tremendously in our HR processes. So things like, payroll, processing of leave applications, using face recognitions for attendance. So all this has been digitalized, and because of these digital solutions, the admin team has now improved their productivity by 30%, which is great. And they can now focus on other tasks on hand, and they can engage in upskilling or attending courses. So this is a really great way to maximize their productivity. And another digital solution that I mentioned earlier was EngageRocket, which we implemented just earlier this year. So it's pretty new to us, and it provides a 360-degree feedback for everyone. Previously, our evaluations and our appraisals in the company were done manually. So it was just like you and your director, between the employee and the director. But with EngageRocket, it includes all levels, right? So from self-appraisals, peer reviews, managerial levels, director reviews. So all this, it helps to make the feedback and the evaluation a lot more holistic and comprehensive. And using EngageRocket has also helped facilitate a lot of positive conversations amongst our colleagues. We are able to get a more in-depth kind of evaluation and better decision making as well on part of our management team in terms of promotion, opportunities and increment. So although EngageRocket, I would say, is still relatively new for us, we have received really a lot of positive feedback from our employees that, they have find it really useful, and it really helped them to be more reflective when they are answering those questions as part of the evaluation. It teaches them to be more aware of their strengths, their weaknesses, their blind spots, areas that can be improved to contribute better to their professional development. So this because of the detailedness of the system and the questions and the in-depthness, that we were able to see a more of a holistic kind of feedback, which has been really useful. So we definitely plan to track and evaluate the results further and progress of our solutions on a yearly basis. So yeah, that's it from me. Thank you very much once again for the award.
Thank you, and congratulations, Nurul and Asia PR Works, and thanks very much for introducing this event.
Thank you.
Now, In our penultimate category, it is my great pleasure to invite the person who literally wrote the book on HR analytics to announce the winner for Best Analytics and Employee Listening. Professor Fermin Diaz's class on HR analytics at SMU has been one of the highlights of many of the students who attended. And he continues to be a strong champion for using analytics in HR within the industry in Singapore. Professor Fermin, please.
Thank you, Chitong. And it's a pleasure to be here this afternoon to announce the next winner in this category. For those of you that have heard me say this before, I believe that HR analytics is something that everyone in HR should do. I have a moniker that goes by HR analytics for all. And it truly is, even for those who feel that they're not good with numbers, and that if they had to be good with numbers, they would have chosen finance instead of HR as a career. We all have to be better with numbers, and we all have to know that in order to solve the most complex problems that we're dealing with today, we have to be able to mix analytics with our soft skills and our knowledge of human resources. And what better company to exemplify that notion about mixing analytics and listening to employees than the winner of this award, Fujifilm. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Fermin. May I now invite Carol from the Fujifilm team to say a few words?
Okay, can you guys see me? Yeah, is it working?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, first of all, thanks, Fermin, for your kind words, and of course, the award itself, right? My name is Carol, and I am from Fujifilm Business Innovation Singapore. And thank as well for EngageRocket for this opportunity and amazing recognition, okay? We are very happy to actually get this award category because this is something that is very close to our heart here in the Human Resource Department, okay? Of course, data nowadays is very important. We cannot think about the world without data, right? And of course, if we talk about together on the effect of the listening strategy, right? Many of organizations today, they have annual engagement surveys where they listen to the employees, they have data, but what does make the difference in the organization when you have this data, right? Is about acting, right? The employee is only going to trust, only going to believe in the organization when he actually sees the actions. And us from HR, we need to make sure that we are capable, we have skills enough, we have tools enough to use this valuable data, this valuable input from the employees and transform into actions, right? And I think over this last year, especially because of COVID, right, we created different kind of channels of communications with our employees. So the data was coming from different channels, different sources, right? And I think that was made us very rich in terms of what we could do for our employees, right? And again, I think if you have to take a key takeaway from this, everyone has data. We just need to know how to use it on a smart way, on an effective way, to make sure that this is driving the employee engagement in our organizations, right? And it's all about trust. If the employees trust us because we are acting back, then I think there's the only success ahead of us, okay? Thank you so much, and I'm happy to connect with you later on, okay?
Thanks so much, Carol.
Thank you.
And congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much.
Last but not least is one of our most hotly contested categories. And during this pandemic, the people agenda has been high on the list of all of the entries. And it was humbling and heartwarming for me to read through the many creative and well-executed programs that so many teams work so hard to put together. To share his thoughts on this space and announce the winner for the category of Best People-Centric Culture, I have the privilege of inviting one of the most people-centric leaders I know to the stage. Mr. Daniel Chia, Head of HR at Samsung. Daniel, over to you.
Thank you, Chitong. Good day, everyone. All right, so, many a time, when we ask, what define a good or successful companies, the common answer I receive, will be, people is the asset, so people is important. So I always go ahead and ask, so what bring out the best of the people, unlock the potential of the people in the organization? And the next common answer that I normally receive is the culture. And we know, be it your C-suite leader, business owner, or HR practitioner like myself, changing the culture is one of the toughest job to do. And I myself, struggle, in terms of improving, in terms of changing culture. And through this, assessment, competition assessment, I read through many good examples, success story from the participant. And I think one particular organization that stands out and to win this category, I think they has this few winning formula. So what I read through and what I could recall, to be a people-centric culture, firstly, you need to make sure the staff feel valued. I think that is very important. You need to have a trust culture whereby the staff feel safe, feel trusted, working in the organization. Open communication, transparency has to be there. And we need to have a culture to promote innovation and creativities. And most important, I think, especially during this new normal, whereby we don't get to see each other, physically face to face, the level of empathy, be it from the employer to the employees, I think that's really one tough job that we need to ensure and to make sure that we can continue to engage our staff even in this remote setting. And lastly, we want to have a culture that promotes D&I, diversity and inclusiveness. So today, I'm very happy and with my great honor, I'd like to announce the winner for this people-centric culture is once again StarHub. So with that, can we have StarHub to give us a sharing session? StarHub again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniel, and thank you, judges and EngageRocket. First of all, on behalf of StarHub, I want to say that we are extremely, extremely humbled to receive this award, right? We, culture is a very, very big word. It's a big word. And having practiced HR for 30 years, you can gauge my vintage from that 30 years, right? I still have to pause and really think about how to define culture. As I think about it, I have a few thoughts, right? Culture, Daniel spoke at length about it. Leaders set the tone, but everyone owns it. Everyone in the organization owns the culture. And ultimately, if I have to distill it, culture boils down to how we treat each other at the workplace and how we achieve success together. And it always, always has to be built upon trust. It has to be authentic and honest. So with that as our bedrock, right, it guides how we build a people-centric culture in StarHub. We really are far from perfect, but we try harder every day to make it better. A few things, maybe a few highlights to share. I can talk about this for days, and as HR people, we can really talk a lot. So I'm going to keep it to the next 90 seconds, right? 2 years ago, we rewrote our company values, and we call it now our culture markers. And the senior leadership team did not go off the mountains to cook it up. We actually involved our entire employee population through hackathons to really, really dig deep on who we are and what we want to be, and came up with our culture markers. So everyone owns it. The language came from the employees. Their fingerprints are all over it. Our culture markers very quickly are A, customer at the heart, challenger spirits, own the outcome, learn every day, one of my favorites, simple yet robust. We are StarHub, we connect, right? So the language is relatable. It came from everyone. It's not some highbrow values that no one can relate to. Culture. And how do we know that we have progressed? Equally humbling, our employee net promoter score improved by 37 points in 2020. Really a very big leap and exceeded our expectations, but this is something that the entire organization worked together. Empathy. Through the COVID period, we really over communicated, right? We ensured that the senior team was present and visible. We had employee town halls once every 2 weeks. We democratized information, right? So that people know what is going on and felt confident. And when times are tough, we doubled down on development. And I shared that earlier. We doubled down on communication. We really took time to listen to employees and took time to put in measures to cater to benefits and well-being programs that addressed a lot of fatigue and burnout, right? Some of it included, you can't go overseas, so you can trade in 5 days of your annual leave, right? For flexi benefits. We introduced no meetings Thursday afternoons, no emails over the weekend. We just rolled out a mental well-being program. And as we speak, we're upskilling the entire organization with new skill sets in agile ways of working, hybrid ways of working, and with a greater digital mindset. So every day is a day to create moments that matter. Every day, depending on how we relate to each other, is a way to build our culture or to take our culture one notch down. And we strive to get better at it all the time. So thank you very much. And I want to congratulate all the other winners. I was very inspired by things that you do in your organization and look forward to learning from all of you. Back to you, Chitong. Thank you.
Thank you very much once again, Kat, very, very well deserved. And thank you to all of our judges as well. And to all the winners, congratulations on your amazing work. As an additional bonus, the team members from all of the winning companies will be hearing from IHRP soon about qualifying for skills badges that they have that you can add to your professional roster of qualifications. So double happiness for you guys. In looking at all the different award categories, there were actually 2 categories where the scores were extremely close. And the quality of the entries was so high that we felt that we actually should make special mention of the companies that narrowly missed out on the awards. Both of these companies showed flair and care for their people and struck a very good balance between strategy and execution. And we would like to work with them to understand how we can share their stories and inspire others more broadly too. They are for the following categories: the best people-centric culture, Prudential. Well done, Prudential, for coming in very, very close in that category to win a special mention as well. And in the best well-being strategy category, Changi Airport Group. So congratulations to both companies and teams. Now, as we come to the end of our time together today, I also want to shout out and to recognize all of those companies who have stepped up to take active steps to listen to their people and to use their feedback to improve their workplace. We've actually received messages from employees in these companies thanking us because we've been the primary mode of communication between them as a confidential layer, and also thanking their leaders for taking the initiative to listen to their opinions and their feedback as they go through an unprecedented time. This sense of their companies and leaders having their back, even in a global crisis, is an important, if intangible, aspect of attracting and retaining the best talent. So to make this more tangible, we've actually created the Employee Listening Champion badge for all of these companies and their teams to use on their social media pages and profiles. So this will help create greater visibility and awareness of the hard work that they are putting in and signal to potential talent that they should consider these workplaces of choice. Congratulations to all the companies that have taken these steps. So that brings us to the end of the proceedings today. Thank you all very much for joining us in this inaugural Workplace Transformation Award ceremony. And congratulations once again to all of the winners. You'll be hearing from us soon with the full report on the state of the employee experience a year into the pandemic. And do look out for more detailed stories on how these winners have made a difference to their people with their efforts. My name has been Chitong. Thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon, and see you all again soon. Take care and stay safe.